Alright, hello ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going over a review sheet dealing with graphing. Alright, just to let you know, anytime you watch one of these videos, please feel free to pause the video. Write down what you need to write on your notes, anything like that, anything that you want to review, rewind it, watch it again. Alright, in case I say something a little off and you need to rewind it so you can hear it again, do so. Nothing wrong with that at all. But I want to welcome you to one of our first lessons. Again, we're going to talk about graphing a little bit today. You have a note sheet with you. It's got a few questions. We're going to answer some of those questions. And the first one, we start with, first thing we have here, a one-dimensional graph. We're looking at a one-dimensional graph. What we call that is a number line. You've all seen a number line, some form or another, right? But a one-dimensional graph, which means we only have points on one line. After you guys learned about a number line, we talked about a second line. We talked about a vertical line. And this vertical line, right, we create something known as a coordinate plane. So with two lines, you create a coordinate plane. That's a two-dimensional graph. Right? The graph contains two number lines. We call these two number lines, we have a horizontal graph or horizontal line here. We call that the x-axis. The vertical number line is known as the y-axis. Right? Now, this coordinate plane is broken into four different regions. We call these quadrants. Q-U-A-D-R-A-N-T-S. Quadrants. These two number lines, they intersect at a point. Now, you guys have all been taught what this is, but remember, origin. O-R-I-G-I-N-S. The origin. Right? The middle of that coordinate plane. The next thing is we have a point on this coordinate plane, represented by x and a y coordinate. Right? Whenever we have a point, we have a couple different ways we can represent it. We call them either an ordered pair, we'll call it a coordinate, or we'll call it just a point. Ordered pair is one of the ones you're going to hear a lot. So remember the phrase ordered pair. It contains an x coordinate and a y coordinate. We write it with a set of parentheses with that comma to separate the x and the y coordinate. The x coordinate will always come first. We do it in alphabetical order. So, along with that, what we're going to look at next is we're going to look at the points below. Now, we have a coordinate plane here, very similar to the one you guys have on your note sheet. We're going to label some things on here. The first thing is we want to label the quadrants. Now, you've learned in the past how to label the quadrants, but there's a nice easy way of doing it where we create a C for coordinate plane. That tells you the direction that you label your quadrants. The first quadrant is in the top right-hand corner. Second quadrant is the top left-hand corner. You can write this right on that sheet of paper. Third quadrant is in the lower left. Fourth quadrant is in the lower right. So you have four different quadrants that can create this coordinate plane. Now, one of the things you're going to be asked to do on number 7 is to actually write down the coordinates. Well, some people have issues about whether they're positive or negative. Whether the x coordinate is positive, whether the y coordinate is positive, all that kind of stuff. Well, I'm going to give you guys kind of a little trick. Anytime you're in the first quadrant, both the x and the y coordinate will always be positive. So that should help you out a little bit. In the second quadrant, the x coordinate is negative, the y coordinate is positive. The third quadrant, the nice thing about that is both the x and the y coordinate are negatives. In the fourth quadrant, the x coordinate is positive, the y coordinate is negative. Now, how does this work? Anytime we talk about finding a coordinate, we always start at the origin. All right, so we start there at the middle. Anytime we talk about the x coordinate, we're talking about moving to the right or to the left along this horizontal axis here, this x-axis. Right? And if you need to label your x and y axis, please feel free to. Now, starting at the origin, anytime you move to the right, your x-coordinate is positive. From the origin, anytime you move to the left, your x-coordinate is negative. Right? When we talk about the y-coordinate, that deals with anything on this vertical axis, going up or going down. So, starting at the origin, from the origin up, the y-coordinate is positive. From the origin of the x-axis down, the y-coordinate is negative. So hopefully that can help you out while we do these. So what we're going to do is we're going to label these points. Let's start with A. A is right here, same one that's on your sheet. All right? When we start to actually label a coordinate, we start at the origin. I always start with the x-coordinate. Well, one of the reasons is because it's the first one that you have to write down. And whenever we do this, we're going to count either to the left or the right, in this case to the right from the origin. Count over 1, 2, 3 units. All right, so the x-coordinate for this point is going to be positive 3. We went to the right, 3 units. All right, because we're in the first quadrant. We go up 1, 2, 3 for your y-coordinate. You end up with the coordinate 3, 3. When we move on to B, B is down here in the fourth quadrant, way down here. To get the x-coordinate, we're going to go to the right. So that's going to be a positive number. You count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 units to the right, you're even with that B coordinate. So the x-coordinate will be 10. When you move down, you're going to move down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. When we go down on the y-coordinate, that's a negative number. So that'll be negative 6. So you get the point 10, 6, 10, negative 6. Let's look at the point C over here. When we look at C over here, for your x-coordinate, we're not going to the right, we're going to the left. If you go to the left from the origin, from that y-axis, you're going to go to a negative direction. So we're going to count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the x-coordinate for C is going to be a negative 7. So we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The y-coordinate is a positive 6. The reason why it's positive is because we went up from the x-axis. Negative 7, 6. All right. So next, D. D is a little unique, and we want to talk about this one. Let's talk about the x-coordinate first. Starting at the origin, you go to the left, so you're going to have a negative number. You count over, you're going to count over 7 units. So the x-coordinate is going to be a negative 7. But here's the thing. If you notice, for the y-coordinate, we neither go up nor do we go down. We're actually on the x-axis. The nice thing about this is that anytime you have a point on the x-axis, you don't go up or you don't go down, that means your y-coordinate is going to be 0. All right? So you end up with the point, I apologize, it's supposed to be negative 7. Negative 7, 0. All right. So, from there, let's go and look at E. E is kind of the opposite of this one. You notice E is on the y-axis. Being on the y-axis, if you look, you can either go to the left or to the right. So the x-coordinate doesn't move. So anytime that point is on the y-axis, the x-coordinate is 0, because you don't move to the left or to the right. But we do have to go down 1, 2, 3 units. We went down 3, so we end up with 0, negative 3. The y-coordinate is negative 3. All right. Going to F. F is right here. All right. X-coordinate. To the left 2, so that's a negative number, so that's negative 2. Up 2, so the y-coordinate is a positive 2. So we end up with negative 2, 2. Then, from there, G. G is right here. Going from here, from the origin, go to the left 3, so that makes that a negative number. Negative 3. Down 2 units, the y-coordinate has to be negative also, so it's a negative 2. Being that it's in the third quadrant, both numbers should be negative. So the x-coordinate is negative 3, the y-coordinate is negative 2. Alright, let's move on to H. H is up here. H is in the first quadrant. So while doing this, you should notice that both points should be positive. Alright, so from the origin, x coordinate 2 units to the right, so your x coordinate should be a positive 2, then up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So your y coordinate should be a positive 6. So you end up with the point 2, 6. And lastly, the origin. Well, when you think of the origin, you don't move to the right, you don't move to the left, so your x-coordinate has to be 0. You don't go up, you don't go down, so your y-coordinate has to be 0. The origin, and why they call it the origin, is that is the place and the starting point for all coordinates, for all ordered pairs. They all start at 0, 0. That's why it's called the origin. Alright, so that was a quick little review on coordinates. I did want to give you guys a quick little review on integers and order of operations. Now at this point, what I suggest you do is you stop the video. On the back of your worksheet, I would copy down these notes, especially if you have issues with addition, subtraction, multiplication, division of integers. This is a quick little reminder on how to do those. And hopefully that'll help you out a little bit. Alright, so you can stop and you can rewind this. Alright, the other thing is order of operation. When we talk about order of operation of solving integer problems, you guys have all seen that lovely little thing called PEMDAS. Parentheses, exponents. Now multiplication, division. They're on the same level. Multiplication does not come before division. They're on the same level. And we read it from left to right. The next one, after that, and lastly, is addition and subtraction. They're also on the same level together. And we actually do the order from left to right also. If you need to pause this, write it down, do so. Alright, again, this is all for your help. If you have issues with this, this is definitely something you should watch. So we're going to do a couple problems. It won't take too long. What we're going to look at, starting off with some addition and subtraction. So, negative 8 plus 14 minus 18. As we look at this, we're going to read this from left to right, because all we have is addition and subtraction. First thing we have is negative 8 and a positive 14. Well, from what you wrote down about integers, when we have addition or subtraction, we look at the signs. Well, the signs on here say they're different. So if the signs are different, you subtract them and you give it the sign of the larger number. So if you subtract 14 and 8, you end up with 6. The 14 is positive. It is larger than the negative 8, so we're going to keep that as a positive number. What we have left is that, well, I'm going to treat that as a negative 18. So when you write 6 minus 18, what I'm thinking is 6 plus a negative 18. So I can apply my rules. When we look at this, it's a positive 6, that's a negative 18. So again, we're looking at different signs. So with different signs, you're going to subtract, then you're going to give it the sign of the larger number. So that's why it becomes a negative 12. You owe me $18. You give me 6, you still owe me 12. That's kind of one way to think about it. Alright, so next, 3 minus 5 plus 26. Now again, order of operation. Left to right, I'm going to do 3 minus 5 first. Again, when we look at this, positive 3, negative 5. Different signs. Subtract, give the sign of the larger number. So we end up with a negative 2. Then we have plus 26. Again, as we look at this, different signs, subtract, give the sign of the larger number. So it's 26 minus 2 is 24. The larger number is positive, so it stays a positive 24. Alright, next. We have 7 times 8 divided by negative 4. Multiplication and division are on the same level. So the nice thing is, well, you work this from left to right, you're going to do the multiplication first. So, 7 times 8, 56. Divided by negative 4. So, this time, different signs for division, you end up with a negative number. So your answer will be negative. Now, you can either do this on a calculator, you can do this by hand. 4 divided by 56, whatever helps you out, it's up to you. Alright? When you divide 56 divided by -4, you better get a negative number. Answer is -14. Alright. Next one. 36 divided by 4 times 6. Now I don't think I really explained the parentheses before, but I want to do it now. These parentheses, when you have this 4 next to this parenthesis sign, that means 4 times 6. You'll see that we're going to use parentheses a lot this year. We're not going to use the multiplication symbol. We don't even use the dot very much. You're going to see most of our multiplications to be written as a set of parentheses. So, when we do this, order of operation, well, division and multiplication are on the same level, so we read it from left to right. So what that means is that we're going to do 36 divided by 4 first. Same signs, so you're going to get a positive number. Then what we're going to do is we're going to multiply that times 6. And 9 times 6, again, same signs, you end up with 54. Alright. So that's basically integers. We're going to look a little bit with some order of operation stuff. A little more complicated, but not too much. The big deal with the one up here is going to be for your calculators. Because your calculators, you're going to find out, they're not that bright. So, what we're going to do is you're going to kind of figure out what the calculator thinks it's doing when you write these in. If you look at this, it says -7 squared. Well, when you square something, what you're doing is you're multiplying it by itself. So -7 squared is basically the same thing as writing -7 times -7. Well, what's a negative times a negative? It's a positive. So you should get a positive 49. That's not what your calculator sees. Your calculator, if you plugged in -7 squared, just like that into your calculator, that you're going to have here at school, you're going to notice it's going to give you something different. Your calculator sees this. It sees sees the opposite of 7 squared. Your calculator does order of operation only. And that's the way it looks at it. So your calculator will give you an answer of -49. It'll do 7 squared first, then it'll take the opposite of that. Right? So that's why with your calculator, you got to watch what you put in there, because it can give you the wrong answer. The way you'd write it in the calculator is like this. You'd write that -7 in parentheses. Since the order of operation says I've got to do what's in this parentheses first, it's going to take this as a -7 and then square it. And it thinks this. -7 times -7. That's what your calculator thinks. And that's how you'll get a correct answer of 49. Here's the hint. Anytime you square a number, you will always get a positive answer. Whether you square 8 squared, -9 squared, -10 squared, it doesn't matter. You will always get a positive number because you're multiplying a number by itself. So you're always multiplying same signs. Alright, let's move on a little bit. We have the square root of 81, and what this is, anytime you see a fraction is a division problem. I want to make sure that is very clear. You're going to see that this little sign right here is not going to be used very much, if at all, after today. Anytime that we write a fraction, 99.9% of the time this year, it'll be written as a fraction. A fraction is a division problem. And it's going to be very important, especially later on, when we have larger numbers and larger expressions to write. So as we look at this, we have division, we have multiplication, but we also have one other thing. We have that square root. Well, when we think about this, we don't have any parentheses, but the next thing is exponents when you talk about PEMDAS. A square root is very similar to an exponent, so we have to treat it as such. So we actually have to figure out what the square root of 81 is. Well, two numbers multiplied together, the same number multiplied together, that gives you 81. Well, that's 9. Square root of 81 is 9. You get 9 divided by 3 times -6. So, now, we move on. We have division, we have multiplication. Well, we have to do division first because it's farther to the left. We work from left to right. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So 3 times -6, different signs. When you multiply, you get a negative number. It's -18. All right. Next one. 1/4 squared. Now, as you notice the parentheses, what that tells you is that you're going to square everything inside that set of parentheses. So you're going to square the 1. You're going to square the 4. We're not going to make this a decimal. You're going to leave it as a fraction. So 1 squared means 1 times 1, which is 1. 4 squared means 4 times 4, which is 16. So you end up with 1/16. Next one. 5 minus 2 times 4 plus 9 divided by 3. Alright, so what this tells you, order of operation. You have multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Well, multiplication, division will come first. So we have to do this. And we'll treat that like a -2. So you're going to write the 5 first. You're not going to mess with it. But you're going to do -2 times 4, which is a -8. So we're writing like -8. Minus and a negative are very similar. So we kind of, when I say -8, when we write it, it's kind of like -8. It's the same idea. Then you have 9 divided by 3, which is a +3. So that's why we write +3. At this point, it's just straight addition and subtraction. But when we do it, subtraction comes first. So 5 minus 8, different signs, subtract, give the sign of the larger number. So you end up with a -3 plus the 3. So -3 plus 3 gives you 0. Alright, we got one more to go. 7 times the quantity, 5 minus 8 squared. Alright, so you go through your PEMDAS. You have parentheses. Yep. So you're going to have to do 5 minus 8 first. Same as up here. Different signs, subtract, give the sign of the larger number. So it's going to be a -3. 5 minus 8 is a -3. So after parentheses comes exponents, and you do have exponents. -3 squared. Same number multiplied by itself. -3 times -3 gives you positive 9. So now, you got 7 times 9, which is 63. Alright, so hopefully that was a quick little review on integers. Feel free to come into class in the morning, figure out any of this. If you have any questions, ask me more questions. I'll give you more examples. We can go through this because I know there's some people that have some issues with integers and order of operations. And I want to make sure you guys get that taken care of before we start all this lovely algebra stuff. So, I want you guys to have a good evening. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.